Grok, AI imagery, and the moral limits of innovation. In recent times, X users have initiated a disturbing trend of undressing strangers through artificial intelligence. In this practice, images of individuals are uploaded, and users prompt Grok, X's AI chatbot, to digitally unclothe or alter the bodies of those pictured. Sometimes, the prompts go further to request cross-dressing or other bodily transformations. This trend, which appears to some as technological play or digital experimentation, raises profound ethical questions about consent, privacy, dignity, and the moral boundaries of innovation in the age of artificial intelligence. Of course, there have been reactions in the global political space. Several countries have moved against Grok over the circulation of explicit content and its manipulation in producing non-consensual sexual deepfakes of women and minors, leading to an intensified international scrutiny of how X handles AI-generated material. Indonesia and Malaysia, for instance, have blocked or suspended access to the platform, while India, the European Union, and the United Kingdom have issued warnings about possible legal consequences. Regulators in Germany, France, and Brazil are also examining regulatory action. Interestingly, Grok has only restricted image generation for non-paying users following the backlash. It has not really stopped to indulge such manipulative prompts. At the heart of this controversy lies a question modern societies are still struggling to answer: just because technology can do something, should it? The above poser largely hinges on the space of consent, which is one of the most critical ethical principles in modern legal and moral thought. It is foundational to human dignity, bodily autonomy, and personal freedom. When AI systems are manipulated to generate altered images of people, particularly images that sexualize or expose bodies without permission, consent is not merely absent but actively violated. In fact, unlike traditional forms of image manipulation, AI-generated imagery introduces a new layer of harm. This is because its images appear realistic enough to blur the line between fiction and reality, making denial or clarification difficult for victims. For women and public figures, such imagery can lead to reputational damage, harassment, emotional distress, and even real-world consequences. The body, therefore, becomes a public object, stripped of agency, rendered vulnerable to the gaze and desires of strangers. This raises an uncomfortable truth. AI has amplified the old problem of objectification into something faster, scalable, and harder to control. Objectification and privacy in the age of algorithmic exposure. Even if it is hardly acknowledged, the modern world is largely constructed around body objectification. In the exploration of freedom and self-autonomy, the body is seen as the exclusive property of the self, which can be clothed and unclothed. It can be fully clad or half-clad. Most especially the feminine body, it may choose to dress and leave the cleavage bare. It may wear micro-minus, jumpers, backless tops, armless tops, jumpsuits, crop tops, corsets, net, etc. It all depends on what the self conceives as privacy and fashion on the body. But the exploration of this freedom is directly proportional to objectification. It makes the self attract the other. It is this objectification that now becomes exacerbated in the digital space. Privacy, once understood as control over one's personal space and information, now becomes very fragile. While social media platforms already thrive on visibility, exposure, and data extraction, AI tools like Grok push it further by transforming existing images into something the subject never consented to create or share. As such, the right to control how one's body is seen, imagined, and represented. When AI is used to undress someone digitally, it collapses the boundary between the public and the intimate. Even if the image is synthetic, the harm is real. The global regulatory reactions show that states are beginning to recognize this danger. However, regulation often lags behind innovation, and legal frameworks struggle to keep pace with technologies that evolve faster than ethical reflection. Innovation without ethical foresight risks becoming reckless. The Grok controversy demonstrates that AI systems cannot be divorced from the social environments in which they operate. Tools trained on vast datasets of human behavior will inevitably reproduce, and sometimes, magnify society's darker impulses unless firm moral boundaries are established. This indeed awakens us to a framework like that of Islam. An Islamic moral lens, dignity, modesty, and accountability. The new trend of undressing others is antithetical to the foundational principles of Islam. Human dignity, karamah, is central to Islamic thought. Quran 64:3 affirms that all human beings are honored as they are created in the most beautiful form. The body is therefore not to be reduced to objects of ridicule, desire, or exploitation. Violating someone's bodily representation in the digital space runs counter to this principle. It violates this honor. This trend is also in contrast to the Islamic conception of modesty. Modesty is paramount for ideal Muslims. As a matter of fact, the Prophet emphasized this truism when he says shyness is an expression of faith. This, which is not limited to clothing, extends to conduct, gaze, intention, and respect for boundaries. The deliberate creation or consumption of imagery that exposes others without consent conflicts with this ethic of restraint and moral responsibility. Another key principle is accountability, mas'uliyah. This is a framework that activates the understanding of what it means to be held responsible for one's actions. Importantly, Islamic ethics does not locate moral failure only in the act itself but also in the systems that enable harm. This accountability, mas'uliyah, applies to individuals, corporations, and authorities. Platforms that profit from engagement while inadequately protecting users from violations cannot absolve themselves by blaming misuse alone. In sum, the use of AI to undress or alter bodies exposes deeper anxieties about sexuality and power in modernity, which Islam foresees through the establishment of some of its foundational principles. While these principles are often trivialized by the world, the present trend reminds us of their importance in essence. Last thoughts. The Grok episode forces a reckoning. Societies must decide where innovation ends and violation begins. Legal responses are necessary but insufficient on their own. Ethical literacy, corporate responsibility, and cultural change must work alongside regulation. For Muslim thinkers and communities, this moment offers an opportunity to contribute meaningfully to global ethical debates, not by retreating into moral outrage, but by articulating principled, humane critiques grounded in respect for human dignity, just as Islam emphasizes. In the end, the issue is not Grok alone. It is about the kind of digital world being built, and whether human bodies will remain subjects with rights, or become objects of limitless algorithmic manipulation.